So as part of this video, we are going to take a look at how to set up the multipass and kind of create a Ubuntu Linux image instance on your Mac. Right. So the first things first, what I'm going to do is launch a terminal. We are going to use this in a while. And quite honestly, I already have Multipass installed, but I'm going to follow the steps anyway so that you can also follow them through. All right. So we're going to open up Chrome and then we are going to type Multipass, and the first link that comes up should be multipass.run, and we'll then just go to multipass website, and here we'll go into docs. Within docs, go to how to guides, and within that go to install multipass. Now come to check prerequisites, or rather, sorry, come to install and then go ahead and select Mac OS, and then all of a sudden, things show up here. Now you can use an installer package. That is not what I have done. You can go ahead and do that. I'm using Brew, and so let's open up a new tab. And so the command then is brew install multipass, right? And this is where I go back to my terminal and simply paste here, brew install multipass, and then hit the return key. And this will then go ahead and install multipass for me. Now what can happen is if multipass is not getting installed this way, um, uh, let me just show you what you can do. um, uh, okay, all right, I tried out multipass just too many times. There has to be a command which I must have used. Okay, just a moment. Hmm. Okay, so what you can do is you can do brew install minus minus cask and then do multipass, right? If you have brew installed and you want to install multipass, these are the two ways. Either go ahead and just use brew install multipass. If not, then use brew install minus minus cask multipass. All right, so we at this point then have multipass installed. Great. And what you see on the screen here is when I type multipass right here, it goes ahead and prints like the help options, right? Yeah, it prints the help related data. One more thing here, if you don't have Brew installed on your Mac, go ahead and follow this link, which will kind of, tell you how to install a Brew, and then you can go ahead and use, this command right here, and then follow the steps essentially. All right. So assuming that things work out good for you until this point, what we're now going to do is create that instance within which we are going to work. And let me then quickly uh, bring up the Blackboard here and remind you of what we were planning on doing. We said that, hey, this is our host machine or host operating system, could be Mac, Windows, right, and Linux, or Linux rather. And right now we are on a Mac. So this is our Mac host. And what we did was install Multipass, which is the hypervisor or image instance manager, virtual machine manager. And we also said we would have VS Code here, and we want VS Code to connect over SSH. And then there has to be some instance running here. Right now, we don't have that instance. Right at this moment, we only have Multipass, the software. And what we are next going to do is ask Multipass to create that instance for us. So we are just going to type Multipass and then say, okay, also let me increase the font size a little bit so you can. All right, let me just. Okay, so we are going to type multipass hyphen shell. That's about it. And what it is now doing is it is kind of preparing, the primary instance. What it'll do is download some image, prepare it in the background, and then actually drop the shell or terminal for that instance. And we'll see that happening in a while. This should kind of, depending on the internet speed, this should take anywhere from few minutes to, tens or maybe even an hour if your internet is slower. On my machine, this is like pretty fast, and yeah, almost done. So it has launched the primary here. It is kind of, setting up some few things in the background. And once all of this is done, it will print like the details and then drop the shell. So let's just wait for that. All right, perfect. So if you see or notice here, it says, "Hey, welcome to Ubuntu 24.04, blah blah blah," all of the details. This is something of use to us, the IP address, and we'll come to this in a while. The but Now what we intend on doing is we are within the multipass instance, so to speak, and we are supposed to now execute few more commands just so that VS Code can properly connect with the primary instance. Primary is essentially name of this machine, right? And so primary instance, we want VS Code to connect to it. So I'll go ahead and modify a few files. So let me copy the command and paste it here. So this command right here, the sudo space vim space slash etc slash ssh slash sshd underscore config, we are going to edit this file slash etc so on and so forth, right? And we are wanting to edit this file just so that we can enable password based login into this system. All of this will make sense in a minute. So I'm within that file now. I'm going to type a colon set space and u and hit the return key. Once I do that, you can see the line numbers are enabled, and we are going to go now to line number 62, right? Line number 62 is this. So this is for keyboard based interactions, right? Interactive authentication. Now I want to go ahead and edit this no right here, this thing right here, this no to a yes. And to do so, to edit a line, what we are going to do is first come to that line, come to that point. So I need to come to, no, the N, and then hit the I key. And as you hit the I key, you will see that, Vim, the editor, goes into something called the insert mode. Then I will go to the end of no, delete it, type yes, and after that, hit the escape key. Once I hit escape key, Vim comes out of the edit or insert mode, and it's now in like the command mode. What I'll do now is type colon WQ and hit the return key, and it writes the updates to the file, right? Now, again, why did we do all of this? It's just because we do not have a GUI, we do not have any visual interface, or we cannot use like any other text editor to edit this. You can use Nano or any other command line editor if you already know of. But Vim, something I know kind of decently to be able to edit files. So I have used that. All right, so the edits are made. Now what we are going to do is kind of ask the system control to kind of reload its daemon. And so let me then go ahead and execute this command, which is sudo systemctl space daemon hyphen reload. Right. Once that is done, we'll go ahead and ask it to restart the SSH service so that remote connections are possible. Again, sudo service SSH restart, and then after that, we are going to do, set a password for this user. Now, the user on this machine is Ubuntu, right? And so Ubuntu at the rate primary means primary is the machine name and Ubuntu is the username. So we are now going to kind of type this command sudo passwd Ubuntu and or Ubuntu, and that essentially is like, hey, set a password for Ubuntu. In my case, I'll just set the password to lowercase p, and whatever you set the password, just be sure to note it down, and that's the password you have to use going forward anytime we want to log in into this machine, right? Log in or execute the sudo command. All right, so we are good now. We have prepared our instance to be able to be, connected through SSH. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull up VS Code. And, if you have VS Code, then once you open VS Code, go to the extensions. And then from there, if you don't already have it installed, type remote and install this remote development. Let me just pull up the marker here. So install this remote development extension, right? I kind of have parts of it installed. So let me, go ahead and install that. Once you install this icon should kind of become visible, right? In my case, I had few parts of this package already present, so that's why I already had this. But you should, if not already, if you don't have the remote extension already installed, you will see this as a new icon, right? And once you see this, click on that. And I already have some SSH related things here. Go back to our terminal, type if conf, oh sorry, not that, type host name hyphen uppercase I. And the moment you do that, you'll see that the IP address is printed here, which is 192.168.64.12. Copy that, right? Come back to VS Code, go to this SSH related, drop down right here. And if you don't see this drop down, be sure to select remote, tunnels in SSH here, right? In the remote explorer, select remotes and tunnel slash SSH. And then within the SSH drop down here, click on this plus button. And once you click on the plus button, like a, user input panel pops up. And in that, you write Ubuntu at the rate and paste the IP address, right? So we are saying, hey, log into this machine 192.168.64.12 as Ubuntu the user, right? And we hit return key. And once you hit the return key, it'll ask you like where to save this config. Just hit the return key again, and we have added details of the remote machine. Now we should have seen it here. We don't, so not a thing to worry about. Go ahead and click this refresh button, and the moment you click this, you'll see that the IP address is visible here. Now what I want to do is ask VS Code to connect to this instance, right? So let me, to show you the magic now, let me just take VS Code on the left side and our machine, the primary instance, on the right side. Okay, so I'm going to go to this option here, 192, 168.64.12, and click this arrow button, which says, I would like the current window of VS Code to attempt a connection, a remote connection to my instance. And let me go ahead and do that. Now, what I'll also get myself out of the way. It's saying, hey, do you want to continue? I'm saying yes. Then it asks me for the password, and this is the password that we set. I'm going to type P because that was the password I set. You can set some other password, but use that password here. Now at the bottom here, you'll notice that it says, hey, SSH colon 192.168.64.12. And if that has happened, then it confirms that the connection is established. Right. Now we're going to do some experiments to prove our point that, whatever edits we make in VS Code are actually happening within our virtual instance or virtual machine here. So let me go ahead and execute ls, and then let me type kind of, mkdir ldd. So we are creating a directory which is LDD, and within that we will work. So let's go into LDD, CD into that, and we see there is nothing here. Perfect. Now we come back to the VS Code and say open folder, right? And when we say open folder, you'll notice that LDD is available here. So this is a hint that we are actually looking inside the file system of the instance that we have created, the primary instance, or the instance by the name primary. So click on LDD here and click OK. What we will notice now is right here. It's saying it's on LDD directory within, and it's on SSH on 192.68.64.12. All right, we'll go ahead and now click this new file button and call this file test. Right, and we'll go ahead and write hello world into the test file. Now, because we are making all the edits on VS Code, which is connected to our virtual machine or the Ubuntu instance within Multipass, if I execute ls here in the terminal, you'll notice that the test file was created, right? And the file we created was in VS Code. All right. So now if I were to do like a cat test, we'll see that the hello world is available here, which is the content of the file. So let's just quickly revise as to what happened here. So we had, primary, uh, and primary was a virtual machine that Multipass created. And within this, we created the LDD directory, right? And we also said that VS Code was over SSH connected to this machine, right? And so what we then asked is opened LDD in VS Code and then added this file test, and the content of which was hello world. Right. And so this hello world and this test file all of a sudden appeared here because of this SSH tunnel or connection. And then within that, we saw that, hello world is available. So what we are going to do is, hide this window going forward and only work within the VS Code environment, and also connect or kind of create a terminal, that is same as the terminal in our virtual machine. And so this way VS Code becomes that nice isolated environment wherein we can develop our code and try out our experiments. So in the videos following this, we'll explore, which part of driver is what files to write, what part means which, and so on and so forth.